Hey guys, welcome back to the Hustlin Horsepower channel. It's Nick, and are you gonna introduce yourself?
Yeah, but you don't understand how English works. My name's Maddy from Lady Gangster Racing.
So guys, we got the Tin Soldiers brackets in here today. I was kind of walking through Caden, and he's got a big head, so Maddie's gonna have to adjust his helmet for herself. But we're gonna be going through and we're gonna be setting up these four-link brackets. Now they do some pretty cool stuff here, and they're gonna think we're all sponsored by them and stuff like that because I'm wearing their shirt. But hey, whatever. They're good dudes over there. I like them. Yes, I did pay for the freaking brackets for all you whatever people out there. But
You gotta support people who support you.
I support people that support us.
Yeah.
And I like supporting good people. And
good, hardworking people.
Jason, Brad, and the guys over there at Tin Soldiers up in Kentucky are some pretty smart dudes, and I like them. And those guys are starting to join the no prep game a little bit. And
was Charlie Brown always a no prep car?
Charlie Brown's a brand new car. They just put that together.
Okay. So that's what they got out. They brought that out to what?
Yeah.
War in the Woods, was that?
War in the Woods. So I don't know if I could do it, but I'd love to try to swing with those guys. Those guys are some smart dudes. They're some of the smartest dudes coming into the no prep game. And there's not a lot of people that do this stuff in-house, like as far as like just about everything in-house. Those guys, they do have a motor. Someone else builds their motors and stuff like that for them. But those guys, they tune their own stuff. They build their own stuff. And there's not many people out there doing that. And of course, they drive their own cars and stuff like that. And I like that aspect of it. I think that's pretty cool. I love the fact that it's like, don't get me wrong, those guys have a good business and everything like that. And those guys are successful in a lot of things they do. But that's competition, right? They're not my best friend or nothing like that. But like, I'd consider those guys friends. They're good people. They're solid to the earth people. And I like competition. And like, I'm not gonna say that I don't care if I lose, but I like competition, and I like competing against people that are like homegrown, right? Like,
yeah,
like
doing
homebred
things
people.
on the same level
like
as you.
they're doing stuff like I can't compare my tuning abilities to a quote unquote professional tuner, right? And I can't compare my chassis stuff to a professional chassis guy. I mean, I do all right, but when it's those guys, even though they have a legitimate business and stuff like that, it's those guys doing it. And like, to me, like I thirst for that type of competition, and I like that aspect of it. And those are some of the smartest guys doing this stuff. And I got nothing but good words to say for those guys. They also do the deal Cincy Street Nights. We might try to make it up there once.
Edgewater Motorsports Park. Yeah.
Edgewater Motorsports Park. I wouldn't mind, or I'd like to, depending on how things go, to make it up there at least once this year probably, to go run with those guys, simply because I like them and I want to support like-minded people. But getting back to it, we got their conventional four-link brackets here. And guys, this is going to be for, I think we're going to call this car the Natural Born Hustler. I'm not convinced yet. I'm thinking about it yet, but I think so. But these right here are just their standard four-link brackets. They also have a low prep bracket that they call it, and it's a pretty cool setup that they're doing there. But with what these brackets right here, the reason I got them, we're not running this car as a four-link car, and if we do, I'm building the chassis so I can run it as a four-link car, but I'm going with the ladder bar setup because I know four links decently well. Can't say I know four links like those guys know four links, but I know some stuff about four links. But I still believe that my ladder bar setup that I build is pretty slick. Like, it works pretty freaking well, and I really like that setup for this type of racing that we are focusing on. The real no prep stuff and the backside of the track stuff. So I'm gonna be building my own ladder bar setup, and I'm gonna talk about that ladder bar setup, but I ain't giving you all the details on that ladder bar setup. Like,
is this the same?
These are the same brackets that were on the Homegrown Hustler. Yep. So I'll be throwing these things in the mill and modifying them a bit, but it's just a normal mild steel bracket because you can weld mild steel to chromoly and it's not certifiable or nothing like that. So guys, I'm going to be talking about these brackets a little bit. They're low prep brackets. These holes right here are offset. Just because in a dynamic state, when a car goes through its chassis separation, as you'd use it for a low prep system, like here, this setup here is either for squat or for separation in the rear end. And squat or separation is basically the what the rear end does, the axle center line does in correlation to your chassis, a correlation to the frame of the car. Whether it's squatting, which means that the axle center line is coming closer to the chassis, or squat where the axle is separating from the chassis. When you squat a car, you're essentially bringing the tire off the ground to move the weight. When you're separating your chassis, you're essentially lifting up the back of the car, or wherever your pickup point is. You're lifting up the car from that position. Oh, Sexy Rexy's come to visit. You're lifting up the car from that point, and you're pushing that tire into the ground. So I always set, for the snow prep stuff, I always set it up for separation. So guys, Lady Gangster asked me to clarify this a little more. A 4-link setup works very well. But with a 4-link change, when you start making larger changes, where we're racing maybe a backside surface on a Friday night and a front side surface Saturday, there's a lot more, in my opinion, that goes into getting a 4-link car, or a little bit more difficult, changing that setup in a 4-link car to a ladder bar car, as far as anti-squat, as far as anti-squat and scaling the car and this and that. I just like the ability to do it with a ladder bar, where you don't have to, you have a more predictable outcome with the ladder bar setup. Ladder bars work. They've always worked. You can go really fast with the ladder bar. 4-link cars are great for optimizing a chassis. They are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I feel a ladder bar can hit the tire harder than a 4-link car, and I feel like a ladder bar is very easy and robust. And I think those are just facts. Ladder bar cars work. They just do. I don't care what anyone says. A ladder bar car that is done properly works. And when I put my twist on the ladder bar setups, they can do some pretty cool stuff. So, getting back to it. Caden was over earlier, and he went and cleaned up these surfaces. We're adding doublers to these. Doublers are basically just a second set of brackets that are added to the face. I'm gonna go through and talk about the reasons for this and so on and so forth. So here you can see the thickness of this plate now, right? They're I want to say they're 1/4 inch. I want to say they're 1/4 inch. I think they're 1/4 inch thick plates. But when we add this plate on top of it, it doubles the thickness of the bracket without adding a lot of weight to the bracket. Now, of course, you can make these out of billet, and they'd be like 5 times the money. Or you could just weld on these doublers. Welding on these doublers gives the bolt more to ride on. And just like I was talking about heim joints and this and that and everything else, give me 1 second. You want the shank of the bolt to be riding in here. So yes, you'll see some of my, you'll look under my car and you'll have 2 or 3 washers on the thing. That's because I didn't take up the time to go machine up custom washers. But it's much more functional than throwing a threaded bolt in here. A threaded bolt, there's threads on there. Those threads are weak as hell. They're meant to seal, like connect something. They're not meant to ride on something. So that's why you have a shanked bolt. The shank, when a shank goes in here, put it in there. The shank is a solid piece. It is slightly larger than the threads of the bolt. Not by much, but it's slightly larger. You put a thread in here, that thread will roll over and you'll have flat spots on your thread. You get that flat spots on your thread, now the heim joint that connects in here is moving around. When that starts moving around, well, all your adjustments just went to hell. They just did. So.
Because there's no consistency anymore.
There's no more consistency. And you get slop in there, and slop is no good. So these doublers here give us more, they're not actually doublers. They're called doublers, but
it adds the thickness to it, so it gives it
what is the word for a fifth? They're like quarterlers.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
But
it adds rigidity and gives it, it's stronger.
It gives the shank of a bolt more to ride on, so it's not boring out your holes. Like if you put a drill in a hole, you use a 1/4-inch drill bit and you drill a hole. You could drill a 1/4-inch hole. If you start using that drill bit in there and you start wobbling it around, or you give it to your old grandma to drill a hole that has no, like, a weak floppy wrist, she might make that a hole 3/16, or she might make that a hole like a 1/4 or 1/2 inch. What's that drill bit that I use, for example?
I think a 1/4.
Okay, she's probably not going to make it an 1/8 inch with a 1/4-inch drill bit, because that's pretty impressive if she can do that. But if starting with a 1/4-inch drill bit, you could drill a 1/4-inch hole, but it might be 3/8, or it might be like larger than that if your wrist starts wobbling around. It's the same thing when you get a bolt in there that starts wobbling around. So we give that a little bit extra thickness, more material for the bolt to ride on. So when I set these up, I'll go, just pause it real quick. So guys, we went through and indexed it. Just come up in here and zoom it in and show them basically. So we went through and we centered all this. We got enough shank in the bolt so that our holes are nice and tight in there. Then, yeah, I got washers on them, so they're not going to fit right now. But, I guess we can put them in through this side. As you can see, that one, that's small enough. You can see that they all fit in there, and they all the way go all the way through the back. But you got to have these holes like right. If you have these offset a little bit when you're welding them up, there is a small little bit of slop, and just do it right. Takes a couple minutes, but ain't that big of a deal. Now we're gonna go through and we're gonna tack weld these in 4 spots, tack weld them in 4 spots. Then we're gonna go through and start welding these suckers. So, I guess we could turn on the welder if you want.
You ready to weld?
Yeah, I said turn on the welder like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, but I was asking questions, not listening to you.
Oh. Put on your helmet. You gonna film for people?
Yep. Gas is on, ground. It's there.
Let's dig on the ground.
Keaton does have a big head. Alright guys, so where we left off on today's video, Nick was welding those doublers on the 4-link brackets. Now, after he welded them up, Nick machined them a little bit so that they would fit on the back of the car. And rather than try to explain it to you, I'm just going to show you and have him go through it, because I wasn't there for that process, but it's pretty cool. The guys here at Flying Hammer have some equipment that we haven't had access to in the past, so it's been really nice to be able to use that machinery and do some pretty cool stuff with it. All right, so you got those doublers welded on.
Yep, and then I got the brackets in there. So I machined them up Did you add that in the video yet, or no?
I mentioned it, but
Okay.
get down there and talk
We'll
about
get a
it.
video on it later on. But I cut these back 500 thou, so or half inch. So when I put these on there originally, there's a half inch gap here. I took off about 4.
Was this already, whoops, was that already,
Yeah, that's notched for what's called deal.
Okay.
But I wanted to sleeve these instead of on the spine. I wanted to sleeve them like around the tube, so I'll be able to weld the inside here, and I can weld in the outside. I'll probably just weld the outside because welding on the inside is a little bit overkill. And I might not. Might cut some of this back or take a little bit of weight out of here just to do it. But the plan is to run the lower bar basically like this, and I'll weld that. See how that fits in there like perfectly?
Yeah, it looks good.
So the lower bar will probably be welded in like this, and that will be our shock mount will get mounted off here. Then we'll tie from here into here and this upper rail into here. Since we're gonna have the passenger seat right here, and we can't run bars vertically. I'll also probably do a deal where I plate in this back deal here, and we'll run this to the lower bar, probably on an angle somewhere like this, since this is in its highest location right now. On a ladder bar setup, this is your instant center point. Instant center is, for generally speaking, is in a fixed location as far as lengthwise, and on a ladder bar setup, you could really only change the height on it in most ladder bar setups out there. So basically, ladder bar setups, you can't change the length of the instant center. There's some stuff that you can do to change it, but we're not going to get into that much detail. On a 4-link setup, you use upper holes and lower holes, and whatever angle this bar is on and this bar is on is where your instant center length is. So wherever the intersect point is, you can make it, 10 feet in front of the car or 50 feet in front of the car if you wanted to. You don't need to do that. I like the ladder bar setup because it's very consistent, and you could hit the tire pretty dang hard. And when you want to change from a front side system to a back side setup, you could do it very simply. I'm going to be reusing the setup that I used on the homegrown Hustler. It's a plate system that goes in here on a jack, where I could put the jack in here, and I literally just slide these down, and I could change this height without having to undo anything. I just pop out the bolts, and I can literally slide it all in. Eventually I'll do serrated blocks, but I'm having a hard time sourcing those. So if anyone knows where those serrated blocks, I can buy those, like a 6-inch, half-inch slot serrated block, I'd like to buy those, but I haven't been able to find them. So yeah, so this setup here is the same setup I used on the homegrown Hustler. I actually took these off of the chassis over here and remade the length brackets, because my number 1 bar on that car set at 9 inches. On this car it sits at 7 inches. On this car it sits at 5 inches. That's why I added some extra holes here. So yeah, doing it this way, I think I could save about 20 pounds off the car. So, and it's also extremely rigid. There's no real room for flex, and when it all gets tied together, it'll be pretty good. So I can start working on the back half tonight. I already made the 2 bars that go up here back. Then I'll go and do the 2 bars that sit here and run back this evening. So guys, thank you for everyone that likes and subscribes to the channel. We'll get a video out, another one for you out tomorrow. We can post this one tonight. It's a holiday, so we can post this one tonight. And then, yeah, we'll get another one out for you tomorrow. I'll have the back half done tomorrow. 24 hours late, but whatever.